I am Marivic Gamutan under the supervision of Professor Jennifer T. Gamboa. Today, I'm going to present my thesis entitled Development and Validation of Kindergarten Reading Workbook. For the background of the studies, according to Republic Act 10157, the Kindergarten Education Law made kindergarten the compulsory and mandatory entry stage to basic education. Department of Education believes that kindergarten is the transition period from informal to formal literacy, considering that age 5 is within the critical years where positive experiences must be nurtured to a certain school readiness. For the kindergarten curriculum, one of the developmental domain needed is to develop the learners in language, literacy, and communication. According to Tamor, one of the problems or challenges that educators are facing today is on how to motivate and teach learners to read. Reading had been a long-lasting and widespread problem among pupils in the primary level. Sartain stated that if educators give importance to the development of children to be independent and motivated readers, then most of the instructional time being devoted to building a solid reading foundation will guide students to be more successful. The problem of non-readers in high school falls on the shoulders of the lower ranks of the agency, particularly on the division and elementary school levels. Ron Front said that teachers and school heads are vital factors that contributes to students' academic success. Early educators gives vital foundations for the learning and development of the children. According to DepEd Memo number 051, series of 2020, Department of Education stated that in delivering distance learning, modular learning in print or in digital format be adopted using self-learning modules or alternative delivery mode, self-instructional modules on competencies in subject areas where the learner failed. For the research problem, the study aimed to develop and validate a reading workbook that focuses on the alphabets for kindergarten pupils, wherein learners can improve their knowledge and skills in reading and develop their competencies in alphabetic knowledge, identifying letters, and phonemic awareness. Specifically, it aims to answer the following questions. How may the reading workbook be validated in terms of the topics to be included in the DEODL modules? How may the reading workbook be developed in terms of the following content, design and format, and pedagogical? So for the methods, the researcher used a developmental design method that focuses on the development of a learning material in the form of a reading workbook and learning interventions. It has also defined that it is a systematic study of designing, developing, and evaluating instructional programs, processes, and products that must meet criteria of internal consistency and effectiveness. It also involves situations in which the product development process is being analyzed and described, and the final product is being evaluated. It often serves as a basis for model construction and theorizing. So for the respondents, there were two groups of expert validators in the study. The first group were composed of 10 expert validators in the field of early childhood education from the Department of Education from different divisions who validated the topics included in the reading workbook. For the second group of validators, there were 5 experts from the Department of Education, Division of Mabalacat City. The 5 experts were Cluster 1 Kindergarten Coordinator, Cluster 2 Kindergarten Coordinator, Cluster 2 Coordinator in Filipino, Master Teacher 2 who specializes in English, and School Principal 3. So for the instruments used in this research, the researcher used 2 standardized evaluation tool for the instructional materials adopted from the College of Education in Pampanga Agricultural University to determine the content and module validity. The first tool was the evaluation instrument of topics included in the DE and ODEL modules answerable by essential or not essential. The researcher used the adopted instrument from PSAU to determine the content validity ratio that was given and answered by the 10 content expert validators. For the second instrument, it is a tool that indicates the DE and ODEL modules. The tool composed of 3 factors, which are content, design, pedagogical, and answerable by yes or no. The researcher adopted the instrument from PSAU, a module validation checklist that has been given to the 5 experts that determine the module validity. For the procedures, we have the pre-implementation. The researcher made a list of the parts of the workbook and did needs assessment regarding to the reading and competencies and needed skills of the learners. The researcher revisited and reviewed different kindergarten reading worksheets and workbooks. The researcher considered developmentally appropriate reading activities for kindergarten. For the implementation plan, the researcher determined the design and format of the reading workbook and the topics from the result of content validation result. The researcher reconstructed and created engaging worksheets with clear instructions. Every worksheet has its learning goals and also appropriate and learner-centered activities, and it also included review activities for the mastery of the lessons. The researcher also made videos about the 28 alphabets to support the workbook. Furthermore, the reading workbook for kindergarten was submitted to the advisor for validation and approval. Comments and suggestions of the advisor were considered to improve the quality of the reading workbook. Moving on for the post-implementation, the researcher asked 2 experts to proofread the proposed reading workbook, 1 education program supervisor from kindergarten and 1 principal 2 whose expertise is in Filipino. The researcher revised the reading workbook based on the comments and suggestions of the 2 experts. The researcher also asked 2 experts to review the videos about the 28 Filipino alphabets. The researcher reconsidered the comments and suggestions to improve the quality of the videos. After the revision of the module, the researcher asked 5 experts in validating the workbook. The 5 expert validators validated the reading workbook through the checklist adopted from Pampanga State Agricultural University. The expert validators validated the workbook based on 3 aspects through its content, format, and pedagogy. Comments and suggestions of the 5 experts were considered for the improvement of the reading workbook. Let's now proceed for the results and discussions. For table number 1, these are the results. The table 1 shows the list of topics included in the reading workbook and its content validity results. After the content was validated by 10 experts, all topics were included in accordance with the loss table for the minimum values of content validity ratio per 10 number of experts. Hence, all topics included were validated by the experts. It shows that these essential topics will help kindergarten learners with their reading skills. According to Collier, to improve child's literacy, starting at a young age allows children to adopt skills when they begin to read, and hearing words and phrases can help children develop extensive vocabulary. For table number 2.1, under the factor content, it shows that in this factor, it has 5 items and it is answerable by yes or no. All evaluators answered yes to all items except item number 3. Therefore, the proposed kindergarten workbook attained the requirement needed in items number 1, 2, 4, and 5. under the content factor. However, there was one evaluator who answered no in item number 3, which is an implication that item number 3 is required to be improved. It is vital that all indicators are included in developing a module. Department of Education Republic Act 10533 Section 3 of 2013 stated that basic education is intended to meet the basic learning needs, which provides the foundation on which subsequent learning can be based. To align the aim of the Department of the Education to the proposed workbook, the researcher reconsidered item number 3 to ensure the quality of the workbook. Therefore, the validator who disagreed in item number 3 in the initial validation rechecked and revalidated the item and the revisions in the proposed workbook. After the revalidation of the item number 3 under content factor, it got 100% yes. Moving on to table 2.2, which is the design and format. The table 2.2 shows the results of the design and format factor for the module validity of the reading workbook. There were 5 items in the second factor, and all 5 validators agreed in items 2.1 to 2.5. This implied that the proposed workbook has met all requirements under factor 2. According to Balcazar, books that has features gives benefits to learners in early stages of learnings, and drawings with text are tools that helps learners to build literacy skills. Shabiraliani stated that teaching using visual aids motivates learners in thinking, and see visual aids important and useful when it has some relation to the course. For table 2.3, factor 3, the pedagogical, these are the results. The table 2.3 shows the pedagogical factor in validating the proposed reading workbook for kindergarten. The third factor is consisted of 7 items answerable by yes or no. 4 experts agreed to 7 items except for 1 validator. 1 validator did not agree in item number 7. Therefore, the proposed workbook attained the requirements in item number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 under the pedagogical factor. However, 1 evaluator disagreed in item number 7, which is an implication that the said item is needed to be reconsidered. Department of Education Republic Act 10533 of 2013 stated that each learner should have quality education wherein it's globally competitive based on pedagogically sound curriculum. To further improve this quality, item number 7 was reconsidered and revised by the researcher. Thereafter, it was revisited, rechecked, and revalidated by the validator. More so, item number 7 got 100% yes after the revalidation. Moving on for the conclusions, based on the results, the study therefore concluded that the workbook was developed through the validation of the 10 experts on the learning competencies for kindergarten using the Losch formula, and it was the basis in selecting the topics to be included in the workbook. The 5 validators agreed that kindergarten reading workbook met all the criteria in 3 factors, namely content, design and factor, and pedagogy. And the third one, the results of the study shows that the proposed reading workbook for kindergarten can be a learning material for kindergarten learners. So for the recommendations, employing the results and conclusions of the study, the following are the recommendations. For the researcher to be able to publish the workbook, consider using original images and pictures to avoid plagiarism and to respect the property of others. For recommendation number 2, to conduct a study using the kindergarten reading workbook to see its effectiveness. And for last one, the related study may be conducted to support the findings of the study.
For the research output, this is the reading workbook for kindergarten entitled Halina't Magbasa at Matuto sa Kindergarten. These are some of the activities inside the workbook. And these are some of the videos made by the researcher. Thank you so much and God bless us all.